Good day, everybody. Just sitting here watching Cooter. He just had him a little meal. He's just finishing up. You can see him finishing chewing up his little nugget that he had. Eyeballing me. You see the head of that bullhead or goldfish or whatever it is. Told me it was a bullhead minnow, but I think it's just a big ass goldfish. There's so many different types of them though, so who knows. I did notice that it sucks off the bottom. A lot of goldfish don't do that. He acts almost like an algae eater almost. So we do have water in the bottom down here. This is for the first time we've had water down there. I think I've shown that a couple times, but since we cut the plants, zoom out a little bit, we don't have those big massive plants in here sucking up all that water. This is actually a good sign for me. This is letting me know that the excess water that is being pulled over the walls and into the bed is actually being drained down into this hole here, which is what I want it to do. So my design is actually doing what I want it to do. So everything is slanted. So you see everything slants down to this corner here. You see the rock kind of just goes from an angle, and then it angles all the way up at a slight angle all the way up till you get to the mountaintop. So you can see the slight angle come right on down, kind of levels off in this area here, and right where it levels off is where we have these little microclimates. This is where it slows down, so it speeds up. The water flushes down through here, and then it hits here and slows down. This is where we're getting all these little microclimates like this here. You get these little pockets where different things do, where algae, this same algae now looks like this, going through different stages. It sits, allows the light to photosynthesize, and the algae actually will photosynthesize. And I'm not a scientist, so I really can't go much further than that. It produces these little bubbles, which is really cool. And then those bubbles will pop, and I guess it's CO2, I'm assuming. But like I said, I'm no scientist, so I really don't know. The plants take carbon dioxide from the air and turn it into CO2. So I'm assuming that's what algae does as well, since algae is basically a plant that's living in water. Or it's not really a plant, it's a whole nother, it's kind of like moss. Moss doesn't have roots, so it's not actually, it's in a whole nother league of its own. And you can see how this moss here just sits on top of the rock, but it's also got that sand, silt, and clay up underneath of it, and the millipedes have just been running through that sand and silt. That's all millipede crap. That's a little millipede hole there. So they're almost like miniature centipedes. So you have the millipede, and then we have centipedes in here as well that eat the millipedes, and so on and so on. So we're basically setting up a little mini ecosystem, and as time progresses, this thing will start to reveal itself on what I have to manage and what I don't have to manage. So you can see that this is all new moss here. This is the old moss, and where the millipedes have torn up all the old moss and drop the droppings down into the edge where this can wick water up. You can see how wet it is. The water's down here, but it wicks that water all the way up all the way up over and into this bed. Then we have another layer, that little thin layer underneath this, underneath the mulch layer of that organic sand, silt, and clay that comes over the wall, and we ran it all the way up to the rock wall. So that allows that water to be wicked all the way up into the top of the beds, and that's how these plants are getting water. They're also getting water once the roots hit the bottom. All that excess water is down there in the reservoir, in that clay, in the sand, silt, and clay. The same material that's up here on top is down at the bottom as well, along with a clay layer to separate the soil from the water layer, from the reservoir. So it's the clay in the earth. So if you tuck a shovel down in the earth and you start digging, you would end up hitting clay before you hit bedrock. Same concept here. We layered it in layers. Except we took the sand, silt, and clay and organic matter that we have in the creek and just laid a layer of it 1 inch thick over top of the soil on top. And that is what's wicking that water up. So it's not the soil, it's the actual organic matter in this sand, silt, and clay here. See, that looks like sand, but it's actually organic matter with sand and silt and clay. And this stuff wicks a tremendous amount of water. If I had just laid this over and let it touch water, you would see it would wick water, and it would end up like this. It would be wet all the way up here, but be touching down there. So it wicks all that water up, and you don't really see. I only have one spot here, one spot. This little bit of area here is what's wicking water up. If I did it all the way around, I would be wicking too much, and it would cause way too much water in the hole over there. So that's why we only have it in certain spots. You can see right there, it's going up into this side of the, and then over on the other side, it's being wicked on that side. So the water is being wicked in by that. We have another spot right over here that's being formed underneath this grass mound. You can see, touching that water. That's all it has to do is touch it, and it will wick and stay wet. Pretty crazy, but that's how Mother Nature, that's how she does it. She uses that organic matter along with the sand, silt, and clay. That mixture, once that mixture gets right, she wicks like crazy. I mean, too much. I mean, you actually, like I said, I had to manage this to the point where I was having to remove some of that from the edge of the rock wall until I got to a point where I wasn't leaking. And that took a month and a half of just slowly removing it and waiting, seeing the water come through. Once I saw water coming too fast, I'd just come back, remove some more, wait. Once the water started to dry up, I knew I was good. But also, once these plants get to a certain point, like up into here, their root systems are down into the bed here and wicking that water up from the bottom and the top, so that the feeder roots on top and all the biology that's here on top, it stays moist from that wicking action. So I water, not water, but I like to do a morning dew, every once in a while, just keeping that top layer that top mulch layer, like these spots here that don't get that moisture wicked up to them. I just like to spray a little bit on top, just like a little light mist, and that's it. And I don't even do that every day. I'm every maybe 2 or 3 days when I see this stuff here getting kind of dry. So that's sand, silt, and clay and organic matter along with the soil. But you can see the sand, the grit. That's what a lot of these, I believe, in my opinion, A lot of these bag soils are missing. They're missing that grit. They're missing that sand, the silt, the clay. That's what real soil is. Broken down mineral, broken down rock, and organic matter from the trees that have been piled up over millions and billions of years. So all this sand and silt and clay and organic matter that you see, all that sand, silt, that's all weathered rock. That's all it is. It's just this stuff. It's been weathered. You know, water erodes rock. That's what it does. And over millions of years, it'll take this rock down to nothing and release that mineral. And if it's near a creek or a stream or a river, that mineral gets released into the stream or creek and flushed down all the way into the ocean. And that's kind of how the oceans are salty, because there's a lot of salt in these rocks. If you ever put salt in your mouth, you know it dissolves, and it's one of the first things that is very easily to dissolve. So kind of one reason why the oceans are salty. There's a lot of salt and mineral, depending on what type of rock it is. There's all different types of rock. So this rock has different types of mineral in it than this rock. But nevertheless, still mineral. Still part of the periodic table. Kind of like these. This is more of a crystal. That's an amethyst. That purple stone. That's more of a crystal. Crystals are formed differently than rock. This is a fluorescent. If you took a fluorescent UV bulb and shined it on that rock right there, it would glow. Which I don't have. I'm going to get me one of those handheld lights where you can shine it right on it, and it'll, when the lights go out, you can shine it on that thing, and it should just shine like crazy. A buddy of mine from Mass Creation sent me that, along with all these other agates. And these are agates from a quarry at Lake Superior. These are super cool. Almost look like this one. This is one of my favorites here. This looks like an orange peel. So you can see the resemblance in an orange and in a rock. Pretty crazy. That's Mother Nature. But plants look good. Everything's looking good this morning, and I appreciate everybody doing a quick walk around. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.